Welcome to today's episode of Financial Fluency. Today I have Elsewine Rietveld from Own Your Stage and also Awesome Videos. Elsewine, could you please tell us a bit about yourself? I hope that I said all of that right.
Yeah, perfect. Hi, Jen. It's great to be here.
So good to have you.
Yeah, and so I the way that you are having a bit difficulty pronouncing my name is that I'm from the Netherlands. So people probably hear that too when I'm speaking. But yeah, I am a presence teacher, trainer, and kinesiologist. And I help people to feel more self-confident and speak with impact in all their conversations, presentations, and on video. And an important thing of that also is to overcome blocks, because we all have like loads of blocks, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
That or limiting thoughts that are keeping us from taking this next step or making this video or doing what we want to do.
Mm-hmm. And I have to say, I love your accent. And I'm also very impressed at you doing all of these trainings. I know that you do them in Dutch as well, but all the trainings that I've seen and heard, you've done in English, which is your second language, which I know a lot of people have difficulty doing presentations and speeches in second language. So you are doing an amazing job of it. I just wanted to give you a shout out for that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, and I don't know, maybe when I was a student, I was really, really afraid to speak in front of audiences or even groups larger than 3 or 4 people. And I wanted to do something about that because I was really upfront, when we had to go to the headmaster, nobody dared. And I was like, sure, it's just a guy. I walk in his office and I ask the question. So there was not a problem for me. Mm-hmm. Then I had to walk back and look into 90 pairs of eyes staring at me. And I had to say what this headmaster had said about it. And I was like, I totally froze and I blacked out. And it was just not my thing. And I was so uncomfortable with that I was like, oh, I cannot, I need to do something about this. So I started looking around and I did a little training, which led me to a debating club. And maybe that's also part of why it's easier for me to do English, because we debated in English. So, and that helped me greatly, because in a debate you get emotion and you get a side. So it's not your personal opinion that you're sharing. It's just like, this house believes Trump should be elected president, and Jen, you are proposition, you're in favor, and Elsewine, you're opposition, you're against. And then you just have like 10-15 minutes to prepare your arguments and give the speech. But it doesn't matter what you believe, you can be totally against or like in favor of something, and you have to speak against something. Mm-hmm. And having it in English made it for me even more like, it didn't come too close. So it was easier for me to do.
I saw something on Arianna Huffington the other day, and it talked about it at college. She joined the debate team, and that really helped her gain a lot of confidence with speaking in front of people in English, her second language too, with her accent and everything. And that totally makes sense. I did not do that myself. Maybe I should have at some point done speech and debate, but yeah, I'm really impressed, especially knowing that you had that fear, that you had the self-presence to know you needed to overcome it to accomplish what you wanted in life and to go ahead and do it. I think a lot of us recognize that we have a hard time doing public speaking.
Absolutely.
I don't know what to do about it,
Yeah. Well, and this was a good start. However, there are 2 remarks I think I need to make. The first one was, I still was very scared, Well, it get better, of course, mm-hmm. But I was in a final once, and I had to pee like 10 times before we got up, and we won the finals after, but I was still so nervous up until the moment that I was there. So once I started, it was okay. It was much better, but beforehand I was still like, oh my God. Not to the point like, oh, I must throw up. Not that. So that was already better. Mm-hmm. Still, I had this anxiety before I went on the stage.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, still a debate, like I explained. It's not your personal opinion. It's not really, it's like sort of safe.
Mm-hmm.
It's not you standing there, speaking there.
I saw someone write the other day that in some kind of poll that someone took, at least I think these were probably Americans, but they ranked a fear of public speaking above the fear of death. So,
Yeah.
and the joke, it was probably a comedian I was listening to. The joke was that at a funeral, people would rather be in the casket than the one giving the speech.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I think what you're hitting on is something that so many of us run up against. And yet, for so many people, in order to get the promotion they want or to, get their message out into the world, to promote the book they wrote, anymore authors aren't just authors. They have to get up and they have to go speak to people and promote their book and travel and do all this stuff. So few people can totally get away with having a successful career without doing some public speaking at some point. Do you think so?
Yeah, absolutely. And if not public speaking, then videos. It's like for entrepreneurs, and it's so important to be seen and to be heard. Or if not even, you're not speaking to groups and you're not making the videos, then you still need to get out and network and speak one-to-one. And I have a lot of clients that feel uncomfortable in that as well. I have some that say like, oh, I just hop on stage, no problem. But when I have to, I just do my thing in front of the group and I'm ready. But when I really, have to contact and be interesting to one person and have a conversation, I get a meltdown. And some people have it the other way around. Like, oh, one-to-one, I'm okay. But talking to a group, oh, no. So that's kind of what like I was.
Mm-hmm.
That's totally different and very difficult still for a lot of people. And like I said, I was still very, very nervous with the debates. And I think about 4 years ago, I learned about presence. And this method contains a huge amount, about around 50 very practical exercises and tools that help you just feel confident and speak with impact. And one of the things I started doing it because I wanted to be confident on videos, because I wanted to make some videos, and there I was just as afraid as I was as a young student in a classroom, and I wanted to do a video, and this same feeling came back and I froze and I just did not hit the record button and I didn't make the video. So I Googled and someone said, oh, you have to look this up. And there was this training with presence practices on one hand and some tips on how to then make videos. So I was like, okay, I have to do this. And I found the changes really amazing. A bonus factor was that I got more into my feminine essence. This practice bring you more to yourself, to your authenticity, to your core. And then my husband started making more compliments and saying like, oh, you're so beautiful, and taking your pictures. And I'm like, I'm just doing my presence practice. And up until today, his first response is, hey, gorgeous, are you doing your practice? Still, but the first response is just so genuine. And it is relatively simple. We did one of the practices. It's a visualization, or it's a part of body work, having your body and your energy aligned, being more in tune with your body, and really literally being present. And doing this for a few years. I've been teaching, like you said, in the Netherlands for 3 years now, and just started to create an online course. One will be really on speaking and owning your stage. That's why my company is called Own Your Stage. And also because I noticed this fear of mine of doing videos, and I see so many people struggling with this. I've started already a very small course, Create Awesome Videos, which is a 10-day, really a quick start if you want to start with it. And this fall, I will be recording an in-depth course that will go over all the details much more content, like it will be a 4-week training as opposed to the 10 days. So there will be more coming also on videos, because it's so important to not only know the technical parts and, YouTube or Vimeo or green screen or not, which camera should I use and what lighting, that's a little part of it. But most important is, how can you be you? How can you be on camera and look back and think, ooh, I like her, and not like, oh no, I don't want to see her. Oh, sorry, it's the audio. We have also image here. I just put my hands in front of my eyes and just peeked a little bit through my fingers to see, like, oh no, I cannot really look at myself on the footage to look back, or it's terrible to hear it back. And I had that totally. And now I just, I like seeing my videos. I like my videos, if I may say so. I just look at them and think, oh yeah, it's about coming across through the camera, having your presence meet them, and they can really see you, for who you are and your authentic self. And yeah, I think that's really, really great. And one of the things what was amazing for myself was last year I took part in another debating tournament. It has been over 12 years that I have been judging regularly still on companies or student events for debating, like tournaments. But I didn't compete anymore. And last year I was like, yeah, I've been judging so long, I should compete again. So I found a guy who was really, really good, because, I wanted someone to pick me up and not me having to pick someone else up, not knowing if I even could do it after all this time. And I just did my presence practices going in there. And well, the result was I ended up 3rd speaker out of 50 and best female debater. So that was a nice result. Mm-hmm. But for me, what was amazing was that I just felt so, well, it's not really relaxed, but I wasn't anxious. I wasn't afraid. I just felt totally confident. Before, I didn't have to go pee 10 times. I just prepared. I walked in. And when it was my turn, I could, when you do a debate, you have to also, or if you give a speech, or if you're a speaker on stage and people say something from the audience, you have to react and respond. It's not, otherwise you could shoot a video or make a webinar if you're just going to transmute everything into the audience and there's no interaction. Well, why is there a live session? So if it's live and in a debate, people can make interruptions and say some things you have to act on. So you can prepare a little bit, but you really have to be on your toes as well, as I think is on the stage. Be ready for anything and feel comfortable with the most difficult, annoying question and still feel centered and powerful with yourself. And that totally I had that day, and I could think, I was still, I was confident, and I could totally, I felt at ease, ordering my thoughts and going over them. And well, it showed obviously for the jury as well in that day, because they really liked it, apparently, because, I ended up really high, which wasn't even my goal. I just wanted, to have some fun and participate. Well, and obviously it's a sport, so you want to win. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't going over there like, oh yeah, I'm going to win that tournament. Well, I could have. We it's always like a jury sport, but for me the benefit was the confidence that I had in that.
Well, I think that looking at video too, nowadays with live streaming becoming so popular and such a big part of our interactions in the world, right now we are recording the audio of this, but we're also Zooming with each other. So we see each other's faces, and there are so many different ways to interact on video with people that I do think that's really important. And it was something that I noticed about a year ago. Was the first time I ever tried periscoping. Prior to that, I tried to do a video because I was supposed to be a guest speaker in someone's program, and they asked me to do a 10 to 15 minute long video to go along with this this content that I submitted. And I found it so hard to record that video. I scripted it and I recorded and I messed up and I recorded and I messed up. Like, I don't even know how many times I re-recorded it. And then last summer I started trying Periscope that seemed so much more down to earth and it seemed informal and kind of easy. And I always tried to have some topics and an idea of what I was going to talk about before I got on, but I loved that I could have interaction and have a conversation with someone that I knew. And that kind of broke the ice for me of video, but I would still sitting down at my desk right now and trying to stare into a blank camera. If you weren't here right now, I would be struggling a lot more, I'm sure, if I was just kind of staring at that camera and trying to pretend it was people. So I think there are so many different points of resistance people come to with all of these areas that you're talking about. Because when you're on a stage, you have all these eyes staring at you and you feel this pressure. With a camera, you can at least stop and start over again, where you can't on the stage. So I can see, for me, that would be a lot of pressure, having the people out there. The camera, for some reason, as soon as you hit record and there's that red light or that blue light, whatever it is that goes on, that can feel kind of equally distressing. And personally, I really like one-on-one in small groups. So I feel like networking situations have never scared me in the same way that real stage performance or video has. But I was thinking as you were bringing those up, I was like, yeah, each one has a slightly different twist on the anxiety and anxiety level for different people, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you feel video anxiety, I wouldn't recommend starting with live videos.
Yeah.
Like Periscope or Facebook Live, because when you feel really uncomfortable, it shows on the camera. And the way you did it is actually perfect. If you're starting out with just videos for yourself, and you can throw them all out just to get some idea of the camera. And I have some tips today for you. And actually the tip that I've written down is really great for this exact point that you're describing, because what I see so much is people doing videos and feeling not comfortable with it. So they either arrange an auto cue, or they write things down on like a paper and hang that above their camera.
That's a good idea. So you're not looking down.
Yeah.
You look up a little bit. That's probably better than the down face.
Well, they're both wrong in my honest opinion, because what you want is connection, and there already is a distance because someone is on your screen. You're not in the same room.
Yeah. Well, I know, like with us right here, my camera's slightly up. So right now I'm looking exactly in my camera, but to see your face, which is what I want to connect with, I'm looking slightly down, aren't I, to look on your screen? Yeah.
Yeah. That's the difficulty when I have the same thing. So I'm looking in the camera, but I and from time to time I look down to see your face and look at it because I like it and I like to look at you. But if you are alone and you have this camera staring at you, you can just imagine there is someone there. Like you said, I find it so hard. So what I do is you can either take like your favorite client or a person that you like or really love, or make sort of an avatar with some qualities that your ideal client have. So if you're working with men, it's a guy, obviously. And if you're working with women, it's a woman. And if you're working with both, just pick someone, and you can pick your sister or your best friend. Imagine her and place her over the camera in your mind.
I was just thinking as you said that, just above where the camera is, I do actually have a photo, but can I show you who it is? Not for this purpose. I just stuck a photo up there. This is our dog's passport photo. I had to get passport photos for her to travel to France with us. And so she's right next to my camera right now. I was like, oh, that's such a cute picture of her. So I'm looking at
really
puppy.
Yeah, that's really cute.
For those of you who couldn't see it, if you're listening to the podcast, there's a very cute picture of a service dog, our service dog Care Bear, that I was showing to the camera then.
Yeah, it's totally, totally cute. Though when you're actually taping a video that you want for your clients, you might think of a different image than your dog that you can still have there for sport, of course. Looking at you and saying like, woof, you're doing okay. So something like that. The most important thing, and I see so many people getting this wrong, is they don't look exactly in the camera. So even if you have just a slightly above or beyond, I see this so much. I lose connection and I just click the video away because I don't feel addressed in this video. I'm like, oh, you're not talking to me. And a perfect example was that I saw like a sponsored video from two women, and they were pitching their training. They had a joint venture training going on, and there it was even more obvious because one woman was totally, she was herself. She was in her body in a moment, talking into the camera and saying, oh, you join us for our awesome training and yada yada yada. And she was really like jumping into my living room literally, and I was seeing her. And then the other woman, she was, the one was slightly to the right and the other was slightly to the left. And she was just looking above the camera and she was reading. It was so obvious that she wasn't speaking. There's such a difference between written language and spoken language. So you really have to trust you're the expert on the topic. So you know what you're going to say. And of course you can write down some words and practice it a few times. But when you shoot your actual video, look into the camera and imagine it is someone you know that you love and that you're sharing this with. Because with that comes your enthusiasm and the contact. And that way you jump in their living rooms and really reach the people. And even if you look slightly down or slightly up, the connection is gone. So no auto cues, no words. If you can do some editing, you could even have like 2 words. So you look down and then you start look in the camera, and you share your bit, take a break and look at the next 2 words if you feel, but it's all insecurity. But you are the expert. You have so much to share about your topic. And the best way to do that is to really connect to the person that is watching. And that's the only way to do it through the camera. So even though it is in the beginning very uncomfortable, like you said, there is no interaction, nothing happening. So you train yourself in that. But imagine, you're talking to your best friend or someone you really like, or your ideal client, or your perfect, preferably one you have and that you really like, oh, I love this client. So picture them and talk to them. It's such a difference.
I've become very aware of looking at your face versus the camera now. So I'm trying to just look at the camera, but I feel like when I look at your face is when I get feedback from you and we smile at each other and we laugh. So it is a bit hard. So I scooted back a little thinking that maybe it wouldn't be quite as noticeable if I am looking exactly in the camera or slightly down at you.
But when you're in a conversation, the alternation is totally fine.
Yeah.
I do the same. But if you shoot a video on your own and you put it on your website, you should not look away because you're not looking at someone's face. You're just looking either at your notes. So you're like thinking, oh, am I saying the right things? And the connection is totally gone. So.
Okay. Well, that's a great tip. All right. So we're visualizing a real actual person, hopefully right there in the camera.
Yeah, okay. When you're doing your alone videos. And when you have chats with multiple people, you totally can just alternate between. But also then, sometimes I have a conversation of 1 hour with one person and it's never looking me in the eye, but always looking at my face. And that's okay, but it's good to alternate it a little bit.
Okay. Okay, what's the next tip?
Yeah, I had one for networking. You said I'm quite okay with networking, but I get a lot of people in my groups that feel awkward or insecure, especially when you go up in a situation where you don't know anyone. It's different, but there are a lot of entrepreneurs there and you don't know anybody, and now you have to, what do I say? How do I start? And one of the things I really like is be present with the other person and listen more, especially if you find it hard to share about yourself. In these situations, so many people just are like, well, there are the kind that are like scoring business cards, you know, they're like, hi, and what do you do? And I do this. Okay, let me have your card. Bye. So that's not really real contact. So I'd rather speak with 3 people in a whole evening than 15, but have real connection. And, you know, if they're interesting, it's better to talk with them. And, you know, sometimes at first glance you think, well, I don't know, you know, I don't need a wood sculptor person or like an artist or something. But when you start to talk, who knows? Or they won't need my service, but they might have a sister or someone. You never know what happens. So don't judge, you know, let go of all these prejudices and judgments. Just be present and really listen without judgment, because that's really it's one of the practices that I teach in the presence training actually, is because we always do, you know, we listen and we have our own associations, or we have the solutions, or we have ideas or something, and that makes it our stuff, that brings it up. And if you just, it is so awesome when you do this and you talk to another person and that person is just open and listening and present. So there's no thoughts going on about who do I want to speak in the room, or did I write that email, or I should give this solution to this problem, or to this, you know, or even unsolicited advice. Mm-hmm. People are not waiting for that. Just be present, feel your feet on the floor, be with your attention in your body and listen. And that is so amazing if you notice what shifts then. So even if you're comfortable networking, you should try this out. And if you're not, then it's an easy way in, because other people love talking about themselves. And they, you know, they will feel this connection, like, wow, this person, you know, really understood me and listened. And even if you don't do it the whole evening long, even if it's only 5 minutes, yeah, try it out and see what happens. So if you feel a judgment coming up or an idea or a solution, just let it go and think, well, like park it, put it in a box or something, like it's not for now. And just go back to being present, feeling your feet on the floor. And yeah, that's it. So
I think that is great advice, because I think a lot of people go to networking events trying to perfect their own elevator pitch, their introduction, like, how do I make a really good impression on this person or that person, without really thinking about the fact that you would love someone to listen to you, to listen to your perfect elevator pitch that you did. And that's what everyone else is coming with. So I sometimes feel like you can make the biggest impression by being the listener, by being the person who listens to the other people bring all their prepared stuff and try it out on you, and you can honestly respond. But yeah, so much of the time people are planning their own response or planning a witty saying here or there, or looking over the person's head to find somebody else. And that's,
I hate that.
Yeah, there's nothing less attractive than realizing someone is being like, oh, is that someone more important?
Yeah.
Should I be talking to that person instead? Things like that. So just, genuinely being interested in what another person has to say. An amazing asset to have, that you might be the one person they remember all night because you actually listen to them.
Exactly. And I have a really quick mind, so I have a lot of associations and ideas actually, and it can even be not from not interested in the other person, but it's not giving them enough space, because you're bringing it to yourself. And it's good to just listen and not have your angle or your experience or your example of this same thing or your solution, but just being open, listen. And like you said, Jen, you could very, very well have the most impact on the people and they remember you,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Especially if you don't do the one-upper thing. Like whatever story they tell, you're like, I did that, but it was more exciting, or it was worse, or it was better,
Absolutely.
And you think you're making a connection, but you're really kind of like, leapfrogging over that person. And when I said I do okay with network events, or with networking, it's really more small groups. Where I live, I'm rural, so I don't get a whole lot of in-person network events to do. But I do like talking with small groups of people or one-on-one. That's where I feel most comfortable. But yeah, also because I really like hearing people's stories. I feel like everyone has some amazing stories. Everyone's life is like bits of short stories or novels, and you learn amazing things if you just kind of sit quietly for a while.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that was 2 tips. Do you have one more for us?
And I have one more, yeah.
Okay, great.
Because, you know, what I noticed is that we all have like these limiting beliefs that are putting us down. Sometimes it's like this little voice in our head, and it can be something that someone said to you once, or that you cooked up all by yourself by comparing yourself to others. And it could be like, oh, I'm bad at public speaking, or I'm awful on videos. And really practical example, when I was in kindergarten, the teacher told me, you cannot cut out a straight line. I say, so you cannot cut straight, something like that. And every time I picked up the scissors, and I was in high school and I was in college, every time, the moment I had like a piece of paper and a pair of scissors, in my head, this voice went, you cannot cut straight line of paper, or whatever, And you know what? I couldn't. I just couldn't. Because my voice was constantly telling me this. And these are some are, and I literally heard that in my head. But there are also moments when they're not so apparent, so not so upfront, but still in the background, they're going like this this bad CD or something they're going around, and they influence you in whatever you want to do, whether it's making a video and it can, usually it's very negative, a negative thought or a negative belief about yourself, like nobody's interested in what I have to say. If that belief is subconscious, or at least, it's there, it doesn't have to be on top of your mind every day, but if it's a belief that you have and you go out networking or you make videos, you won't come across as convincing or as likable or as good as you actually are, because this belief is like interfering with that, because somehow you're also energetically somehow sending out like, I am not interesting, or people are not interested in what I have to say, for example. And if that is the case, it can be really limiting in what you want. So it can be good to take a moment and to write down some of these thoughts that come up, that that you have, and sometimes you need to dig a little deeper. And this is what I also do in my one-on-one work, in my one-on-one sessions with clients, and there I use kinesiology. It's I don't know if you heard about it. It's muscle testing, and it's a way of, it sounds a bit woo-woo, but it's totally, I find it so practical and to the point. It's a way of connecting to your body wisdom, because your body knows what is up, what is the block, and what it wants to recover from that block. And you can totally test out yourself if you're not sure, is this a limiting belief or not? But also without the kinesiology, you can already start for yourself just now, grab a piece of paper and a pen and write down some of these limiting thoughts that you have. And if you've written them down, Jenna's
paper and pen. Okay.
So, and sometimes you write a few down, and they're sort of more the superficial ones, and that's totally okay. And when you look closer at them, you see, oh, this is what lies underneath. So probably you're not thinking, nobody's interested in what I have to say. But it could be that you at first write down like, I am scared on video, or I'm scared to promote my message. So you could write that down. And if you take a little longer, you could really see what what idea or what belief lies underneath that that belief that you have. And nobody cares what I have to say or is interested in what I have to say. That can come from way back, that somebody said it to you, to your face, or that you thought people respond in a way, so they are not interested in me. So something happened, and that can be really small, like I said, in kindergarten. And that was sort of like this obvious thing, because I'm not really a paper cutting girl, so it doesn't happen often, but when it does, it comes to me. And
but what if you might have been a paper cut artist? People do those cut paper intricate designs and things. I'm not saying that your kindergarten teacher destroyed your life or anything, but who knows, you might have gone in a different direction had you not always thought you were bad at cutting paper.
Exactly. And that's exactly the example. It's not that everybody is going to be a movie star or whatever it is that they are limiting their belief on, but they limit themselves of taking this step into the next level by thinking these thoughts. And if you start writing some of them down and looking at them, and then just tweak them to positive, and then not to the ultra positive, like you said, like I cannot cut a straight piece of paper. I'm not writing like I am a paper artist, and I can, that's not realistic. It's too far-fetched.
Mm-hmm.
So I just tweak it a little bit, like I can cut along the line, or I can cut my paper straight.
Mm-hmm.
Or something, just a little tweak. And if the thing is like nobody is interested in what I have to say, you're not going to tweak it to everybody's interested in what I have to say. No,
maybe one person needs to hear what I have to say.
Yeah.
Someone out there.
Yeah, or just like I have to share a lot, and there are people that are interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but you have to feel like what feels good for you. And that's where, the one-to-one work comes in, and you can really fine tune per person, but you can really feel for yourself. So for you, it might be like one person might be, and that might not be my thing, but that's why you do it yourself, to find out like, what is the more positive side of this belief that I have now, and how can I tweak that? And then you just say it out loud to yourself repeatedly until you start thinking that more and more often. So there's so much more to do on that, but we would have like a 2-hour podcast here. That's not
so maybe
not what we're aiming for. But
for public speaking, you could go from I have to go pee 10 times before I get up on stage to like 8 times. Or if you used to vomit, you could say, I'll just feel nauseous, but I won't vomit before I go on stage.
Yeah, and if you have that, you could even like, that's the how it shows. You pee or you vomit or whatever, but what lies underneath? Like, I have a fear of public speaking. And then your first step could be like, even though I'm afraid, I won't have body discomfort, or I don't feel it in my body. Even though you make it, even though I feel a little afraid, I can trust myself on stage. So just look for, those are perfect examples of what is the first thing that comes to mind, like the peeing or the puking or like, oh, this is going in a whole wrong direction.
But I think people do experience it in their bodies. I mean, public speaking is such a frightening, it does feel like a fear of heights or a fear of spiders for some people, it's
or the throat really, or I can't breathe anymore.
Yeah.
So even though I'm scared, I can still breathe. That could be like, first step up from I'm that, I'd rather die than go on stage. Something like that, like fear of, like you said, like the fear of speaking. So
have you had any clients that you've worked with who have brought it back to a traumatic event in their life? I mean, who have looked at the fear of these sorts of things and it really has connected with something maybe a little more traumatic than kindergarten teachers' criticism? Because I feel like for some people, crowds, public spaces, I mean, depending on what they've experienced in their lives, in their childhood, if they've been in a war zone, sometimes there can be some very big things attached to phobic level fears.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I find also the presence work that I do in the groups that I teach. I had people coming in that were in, they were not entrepreneurs, but they worked in a company, and they just couldn't speak up in their meetings. So they really, they couldn't make the next step. They were not heard and seen. They were so afraid to speak up. And when implementing some of the practices and doing the body and the grounding work and really also working on some of the blocks, really helped them to feel more self-confident and not talk themselves down. Also, like, there's a big one on who is interested in what I have to say, also like in this team meeting, and going to just saying what they want to say in a matter and not feeling, totally anxious about it, but just in a strong, confident way. And they notice people listening to them. And they're like, oh, people listen to me, like, that's new.
Well, and that can have such a huge effect on a cumulative effect on a career, especially for women in male-dominated industries. I see that as a very hard place. I've talked with quite a few women in tech industries where in the team meetings, if you're the only woman in the room, how hard it can be to get your ideas across, to be heard, to get credit for your work, all those sorts of things that...
Absolutely.
Yeah, just having the confidence to say it and be confident you'll be heard and it'll be accepted and it won't be made fun of or put down in some way. If you spend 20 years being afraid to bring up your ideas in meetings in a business, you won't be moving forward. Yeah.
No, that's so bad. And this is, in the basics, it's a feminine presence. So doing this presence training, I work a lot with, like you said, with women, in the banking world and consultancies, and also in these techie environments, like I said, where they are the only woman. And a pitfall there is that they go along in the energy of the man. So they're competing. Again, sort of competing, they also want or fighting for their place to be seen and heard. But they are in a disadvantage because this masculine role is not their natural thing. And when you bring it back to your own authenticity and your own strength and power, there is the feminine, and it's not weak and it's not like wishy-washy. My nails and my hair, and I got my nails now because I like it. But it's about really regaining your feminine power. And if you are in your own zone of genius that way, people will listen and people will be impressed with what you do, even though it's totally different approach or different way of the way they are used to do it, but it fits you. So if you are trying to do what they do, they will always beat you at the game, because for them that is natural, that is their natural energy. It's less draining and it comes more natural to them. Whereas as a woman, you're trying that, you're already in a disadvantage. And when you're in your own energy, and it's actually one of the practices that I teach is about the masculine, the feminine, and the neutral energy. And there's so many eye openers when I do this with women. They're like, oh, now I understand my colleagues when they're coming to me, and now I understand my husband. And because they really experience this masculine energy at their fullest. They see it for what it is. It's totally different from the feminine energy. And it's fine, it's not bad. It's just not the women's energy. And when you're more aware of that, you can shift between them. And when you need it, you can momentarily tap into the masculine energy. But the most powerful way of being yourself and being seen and heard is of being feminine and in your feminine energy and in your feminine power. So
do you work with men as well?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
The method that I'm teaching is called Feminine Presence, and I was the first to start working with men's groups as well. And I started, I think, a year and a half ago, and just before the summer I had my 9th group of men already, and they love it too, because they also sometimes, they feel insecure, or they, especially in the speaking part, or even, I get a lot of experienced speakers like lawyers and debaters and speaker trainers, also part of my network. And they come to me with the speaker trainers, they're teaching other people how to speak, and when they learn about their presence and more embodied and the energy around them and how to influence that in a quick and effective way, that is so amazing to see. So they really pick up a lot from it as well. And as I transformed my group work here into an online training, I've also designed it in a way that it will be accessible for both women and for men. And the practices in there are all to support you to feel more confident and connect more to your inner strength. And for men, that is, their masculine essence. And that's also important, because we don't want to shame them for it, or say like, oh, the masculine is bad. Totally not. For the man. And for the women to be more in their confidence and speak about it. So I'm really excited to do that online as well.
So if anyone listening is interested in finding out more about how they can get involved with your online trainings, now that they'll be accessible outside of the Netherlands, where do they need to go?
Well, the easiest spot to learn more about it is on my website, which is www.elsewine.com, and that's written as Elsewine. That's why people call me a lot Elsewine, and it's totally fine too. I listen to it as well. So
I'll put a link in the notes.
Yeah, you can put a link in there, and I have a background information, and there's on the tab or the site of the courses, there's much more information about it as well. And we start mid-September I start with sharing the information about it. We're now at the moment beta testing it, because I want to, I know the practices work, and it's been teaching it for years, and it's all over the world. It's really, really powerful stuff. But I want to make sure that everything is there. All the links are working. It is the right amount, the combination of the practices, the order of the practices, how much are in there. I wanted to make a mix between delivering very, very valuable tools and not having too much in it so people feel overwhelmed. So it's a combination between that. And just to make sure everything is perfect, we're running like a test now, and then October 15th we will be starting the training for everybody that wants to work on their presence and own their stage.
That sounds great. And it is so interesting. I've heard a few other people talk about this lately. I feel like there was a period of time when people felt like an online course had to have everything possible in it. And then after people kept getting these massive courses with so much material and 20 hours of video and, thick, many page workbooks, they started to realize that a lot of people have lives that are ongoing in the course of it, and that sometimes it's way too much. And I've definitely experienced that myself. I do kind of feel like the new movement is taking us towards the smallest amount to get the result you want. Because it is so easy to overwhelm people with
Absolutely.
having too much information sometimes, or things that are interesting and that you need to know as the trainer, but maybe we don't all need to know as the learners. So I'm glad to hear that too, because the learners get overwhelmed. I get overwhelmed when I take courses sometimes.
Yeah, me too. I'm the same. And when I started to map it out, I was like, oh, it must be really valuable. And I started writing down, and this must be in, and this practice. And I think I had over 40 practices. And I was like, it's a 6-week training. And one of the practices actually is called Less is More. And I looked at it and I was like, yeah, this is so overwhelming. People won't do anything, and then it won't benefit at all.
Yeah.
So I've distilled it to 4 practices a week, and starting with a tune-in. So a tune-in is like really a moment to tap into your body, be present. It's like a sort of short guided meditation. It's only 5 minutes, give or take. So you start with that. And then there are 4 practices, and they vary in length. But, I have one video that is around 20 minutes, I think. But there are also like 3 to 5 minutes, just a little explanation. And then you do the practice. And a lot when the practice is a bit longer, or the video, you just do the practice whilst we speak. And then you know it, and you can just implement it into your daily work. So I could do a practice right now talking to you, and you wouldn't see anything, you wouldn't notice anything specific, like, oh, what is she weird doing? But what you might notice is that people start to notice you more. And I did just 2 practices on my way to a networking event when I started out with it, and we were in a table with 10 women. And everybody was talking, and then someone asked me, so what do you do? And I just did those 2 practices, and I started sharing what I do. And everybody felt silent, and everybody was staring at me and listening in. And I was like, what's happening? And, so it can be that great. And any situation, just working on your computer, you can just do a practice, picking up your phone. So it's not like a ton of homework as well. You have to practice it to master it. Your mastering your presence won't be done in 2 weeks. I'm doing it for 3-4 years now, and I'm still practicing on a daily basis. It's with everything. The more you do it, the better you get at it.
It sounds more like yoga or meditation, where it becomes part of your life, something that you work into. I say that as someone who's not quite managed to make yoga or meditation a part of my everyday life, but I do try to do them both a bit more than I used to, which is how we all try to do it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, but it's, I've been doing yoga, but I don't do yoga during my speakings that I have, So, and the great thing, what I like about this is that I can also practice it just in my conversations. So
that's good. Well, and I've noticed a few times as we've been talking, I've realized that I was kind of hunching over or leaning forward, and I sit on a stability ball already to try to, help keep my core strong, but it made me kind of put my shoulders back a bit and sit up straighter and be like, oh yeah, I shouldn't be all slouched over while I'm talking to Elshvina. I should be sitting up straight. That's part of my presence, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Body language is or the body actually, and what you communicate with the body, and is very much important as well. And a lot of practices start with a body movement or body practice, thus changing your energy and that what you send out actually. So some of it are physical, and some are more like visualizations leading to the body and the energy to change. So it's both sides of it. So
Well, great. And thank you so much for sharing all of this with us today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Compare your passion with a money making potential, and that's just, you get to do what you love almost on somebody else's dime.